I'd get a lot of comments from people saying, hey, why are these tools so expensive? Are there like any affordable tools for someone like me? I can't afford $100 to $200 a month on these SEO tools. And so that's something that I kept seeing. And I was like, you know what? This is a hypothesis and I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm going to spend 6, 7 months building this. I just had a little bit of a gut feeling. And so I spent some time building it, learning to code from scratch.
In today's episode, we have Jaume, founder of Clicks.so, which is an affordable SEO tool that provides high-quality data to small businesses and website owners. It was started in 2023 and has monthly recurring revenue of $4,000 a month. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so you started in the SEO space in university. You were building websites in WordPress, on Shopify sites. Can you talk us through this earlier period when you first got introduced into the world of SEO?
Yeah, for sure. I think I kind of like a lot of people wanted to make money online, right? I was in university and I wanted to see what other people were doing. You hear people talking about passive income. You hear people talking about just people making a bunch of money selling stuff. So yeah, watching YouTube videos, started learning about drop shipping, did a little bit of drop shipping, not as much as most people, and then got frustrated with how expensive it was to run Facebook ads, and then eventually found or stumbled upon SEO. And yeah, and I liked that it was in some way a free way of getting traffic. And yeah, just been kind of super focused with SEO and growing stuff online and organic traffic. So ended up finding out about SEO and then started just learning as much as I could about SEO. So one of the first things that I did was we wanted to try and rank a fake dental listing inside of Google Maps to see if we could rank it for the area where I was living in at the time, which was in Vancouver in Canada. And so within a few months, I started getting calls because I added my phone number to the Google Maps listing. Like, hey, could you take a look at my son's teeth? Like he might need braces, this and that. And that's when I realized it was working. So earlier on with kind of everything else, there wasn't really like any early signs of things working. Like it was just like a whole lot of struggling, right? And not that I didn't go through with things, like we made money, but still it was like things where it looked like it was too difficult. But then on the SEO side, things just started kind of flowing. Things just kind of made sense. And so those early wins, I think, kind of propelled me to keep going and was really useful. And so from then, I then ended up doing freelancing. I ended up working at a startup, all like in SEO roles and SEO positions. I had my own agency. I've kind of done almost everything. I started my own YouTube channel where I talk about SEO, and then eventually, most recently, built this SEO software.
Yeah, I think that's important about people. They don't have like maybe a rubric or a way to gauge whether something's working or not, when to stop and or kind of give up on a particular path just so they can refocus on something else, when
Mhm.
to continue to reinvest. So for you, it was just almost like noticing that things were just working
Yeah.
with less effort than your previous attempts at other businesses.
Yeah, it felt like something was different about it. I don't know if it was because at the time maybe SEO was a little bit easier. This was like 7 years ago, but there were results right away, right? And in comparison to the early dropshipping days, again, we made sales. Maybe we got to like 2K a month in sales, but still, it was so much harder to get those results than the SEO results that it just made more sense to continue with.
Yeah, you didn't mention exactly the kind of success from your other kind of incarnations of in the SEO space. You mentioned you worked at other companies, I'm assuming doing marketing and SEO things. You
Yeah.
mentioned you had your own agency. Why not just stick there and why not just kind of scale that up, rather than, which we'll get to, rather than building a SaaS business?
Yeah, absolutely. So, why didn't I say at the startup? Just super toxic. I was head of SEO at a startup at this e-commerce company, and it's just really long hours, super toxic culture, just growth at all costs with a lot of people that didn't understand SEO, so it wasn't really the right fit. And then the agency side of things is great, and a lot of clients come through YouTube. But I've wanted to kind of own my own business for a while. Both of my brothers own their own businesses as well, both SaaS actually, which is a great for this call. But yeah, I think when you have clients and when you do agency work, what you're doing at the end of the day is, yes, you're getting paid a decent amount of money, but you're growing someone else's business. And so kind of the proportional input that you're putting in, they're getting all that proportional output, right? They're getting in all the long-term benefits of your SEO help or whatever other marketing thing you're helping them with. And so I thought, hey, if I'm putting in all these hours of effort into someone else's business? What would happen if I put that into my own business, right? All these hours into my own business. I hate how cliche this sounds, but I kind of wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to call my own shots. I wanted to decide what I was working on and at what time. I thought also seeing my older brother again, just as a quick mention, he runs a fitness app. And so I saw him succeeding and I saw the type of revenue that he was getting based on the amount of work that he was doing. And I thought that was definitely the way that I wanted to work.
I had a previous guest that talked about how, to some degree, it's kind of a numbers game until you land on what works. You went to different businesses, you went the route of being head of SEO at the startup, you had your own agency. So as you were kind of going through this, it almost sounds like you're looking at it with 2020 hindsight. You started noticing, okay, SEO is my thing. This makes sense for me. I feel very little friction to finding success here,
Yeah,
but you didn't necessarily land yet on the right version of a business to build in this
exactly.
space.
Yep.
It almost seems like a numbers game where you try different things out and see what happens. Did you kind of have to start from scratch each time, or were there things you found transferable between the different attempts, or like a certain game plan, certain mindset, certain approach to starting a business that you could apply each time so you didn't start from scratch, or was it from scratch each time?
Yeah, I guess you always have things that transfer over. For example, working at the startup, I had the ability of like growing a team, and so that helped me learn how to outsource things. And so when we were running the agency, that was also helpful because you just realize that you can't do everything, right? And you should outsource as soon as you can to become more efficient. So that's one of the transferable ones. But when you now talk about building something like software, it's like a totally new thing, right? So that was basically starting from scratch. The good thing about SEO, and that's also kind of something that's similar with programming, is that a lot of it is just trial and error, and it's just like banging your head against your keyboard until something good comes out of it. And so SEO is a lot like that, right? It's you try things, you try things, and eventually you rank something, and you find that's the thing that ranks, and you just kind of copy and paste, and you keep going, and you follow that method. And so I've seen that kind of be kind of similar with programming as well. You eventually find something that works, and yeah,
And
absolutely.
speaking of that, so you mentioned that you got some inspiration from your brother who owns a fitness app. Other members of your family are in
Mhm.
the SaaS space. Was this your first SaaS business that you started, the Clicks.so?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Where did it begin? Like you had to, I believe you had to learn to code, right, as the very first step.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah. So right before joining the startup as a head of SEO, I did a really short boot camp, a coding boot camp called Le Wagon.
Yeah.
It's pretty big in Barcelona where I live, and so did that, and then took like a year and a half, almost 2 years off because I had the startup job, and then I had the agency kind of midway through, and I didn't really touch any code for a while, and so I was super rusty. I eventually built like a website just as a trial, not a SaaS, just like a content website for my YouTube channel actually to create like SEO content. And that was brutal. That was brutal because it's basically like starting from scratch again. Even though I had all the content from the bootcamp and I kind of remembered some things, it was pretty difficult. So one of the things that I did was I would hire a developer and I would call him on like an hourly basis. He would help me and guide me when I was building specific things. So for example, for this content website that I was building, I was having a hard time, like, I don't know, creating like a new subfolder where I was showing restaurants or whatever it was. I would call him and then we do half an hour and he'd be like, no, you actually have to do it like this, like that, and this other way. And that would help me kind of move forward. So it wasn't totally like, I know a lot of people do like brute force programming where they just like slam their head into their computer and they just do it completely on their own. I try to get other people to help me so I could move as fast as possible. So then when it came to Clicks.so, I saw kind of this problem that was quite evident through my YouTube channel. So I create like content about SEO and I'd get a lot of comments from people saying, hey, why are these tools so expensive? Are there like any affordable tools for someone like me? I'm a developer, or someone like me, I'm a designer or a small business owner, but I can't afford $100 to $200 a month on these SEO tools. And so that's something that I kept seeing. And I was like, you know what? This is a hypothesis and I'd love to be proven wrong. I'm going to spend 6, 7 months building this. I just had a little bit of a gut feeling. And so I spent some time building it, learning to code from scratch. It was also around the same time that ChatGPT started getting really good at coding. So that sped everything up quite a lot. And so with the help of the dev, every like maybe like once every few weeks, I'd get like on a 2 hour call with him and he'd help move me forward.
So lots of stuff there that I want to unpack. And I think one very cool thing that I haven't heard someone do before is that you hired this developer to basically like pair a program with you, almost like
Literally.
a
Yeah.
live mentor. And I think this invites a question, which is the approach that I typically see people do that are not, they're not like programmers first, they're like entrepreneurs first, is
Hmm.
that they just hire someone to do it completely and kind of be hands off on that side. What's the pros and cons? Like, why did you decide to take the approach that you took?
Yeah, it's a good question. And honestly, I see both sides. But for me, I would always get frustrated with how much power a developer would have. And it's almost like even when I was working at the startup after doing the bootcamp, I remember being frustrated because whatever, I want to build like a subset of pages for SEO because I knew that they'd rank well and they'd do well for the business. It would have to go through a developer. And the developer would have to say yes, and they would have to give me all these specific requests. And it was so frustrating because I was like, I did this bootcamp and I more or less know how to do it, but I can't do it. They know that I don't have the knowledge to do it. And so there's always this like limiting thing when you just don't have the knowledge, like you have to depend on someone else. What happens when that person's sick? What happens when, I don't know, they don't want to work with you anymore? There's so many things, right? And so there's also the whole wave of indie hacking, of people just building things completely on their own. And not that I recommend it because it's also great to work with someone who knows a lot more than you do. But in that moment, I just said, you know what, screw it. I'm just going to go 100% on me. It's going to depend on me. If it works, great. If it doesn't, I can't blame someone else. And yeah, I just want it to be self-sustaining, self-empowering, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, another theme I see here is that, so you want to learn to code yourself so you can kind of iterate faster. You don't have to keep on waiting for this turnaround time for someone else implemented, even if you had someone on staff. You hire the help to cut the learning curve so you can move as fast as possible. So the theme I'm seeing develop here is about speed. To
Yeah.
you, like, why is speed important?
Yeah. Actually, to give you another example, so we have the Clicks.so app, which is app.clicks.so, and then Clicks.so, which is the marketing site, which is built on Webflow. Okay, so my younger brother, he's also on YouTube. He's an expert Webflow guy. And I kind of outsourced the marketing site to him because I was too busy building the app. But recently I've been wanting to build a bunch of stuff for the website, like mini tools and stuff just to get some marketing, some growth going through like the marketing site. And Webflow was limiting me so much that I've spent the last week and a half just rebuilding everything in Rails. And so now the website is fully built on Rails. I'm tired of Webflow. I'm tired of paying $29 a month for not much, honestly. And so yeah, so it's the speed and it's the flexibility as well, right? Because it's just I decide when I do things. And yeah, a lot of times, like for example, I wanted to build this programmatic SEO subfolder inside of Webflow. And so all that means is just like a subset of pages where the content is very similar. But it's, for example, I want to talk about, okay, what are the most popular keywords in a bunch of different categories? Let's say I have like 100 different categories. So it's like the most popular keywords in agriculture, for animals, for a dentist, whatever. And so all these different pages, you can create these pages super quickly with Rails. But with Webflow, I would have to add in this plugin that would make this page, it was a mess, right? It was a mess. And with programming, once you understand the depth of how quickly you can go, it's incredible, right? And so there's no need to ask anybody for permission, or you don't have to get an extra tier on Webflow because you want to add more pages. It's crazy, right? When you can code, it's super quick.
I think it's cool that you took this, very interesting and cool that you took this approach of hiring a developer to help you out. But
Yeah.
what about the other approach where you went to boot camp? Do you recommend others that want to launch a SaaS, want to get into this space, they have ideas that they want to launch? Do you recommend they take this approach of going to boot camp to learn how to code, so then to come out of it and then build it themselves, or at least have an understanding of how to build it? Maybe they work with a developer to build out the maybe V1, for example.
Yeah, absolutely. So funny story is my younger brother, who again, he does Webflow. And so he's a designer. And so he's like as close as you can get to programming without actually programming. And so he's been super frustrated because again, it's like he's limited to Webflow. And so I told him, you need to sign up to a bootcamp. Why? And he's like, oh, but I can code with AI. Cursor is amazing. You can code the whole app. Fantastic. But when Cursor spits something out that you don't understand, what do? You're screwed, right? So boot camps are super good for understanding the fundamentals, and they give you a really solid base of where things go and why. And that's literally, I think that's the complexity behind, I don't know, I'm not that experienced of a developer, but I want to say maybe like 95% of apps online, right? It's just, where do things go? How do I connect an API? How do I show this data? And that's it. And I think boot camps are amazing for that. not that I'm affiliated. I would love to be affiliated with them because I always talk about them so much. But yeah, I think it's an incredible way of spending your money and investing in yourself, especially if you have kind of that, I don't want to say that like that interest, something like if it sparks in your head like, hey, maybe I should learn to code. A bootcamp is an incredible way. I did the 9 week one, so it's like 2 months and a half, and it's brutal. You literally go home every day and your head's spinning, but you come out of it really, really ready to build like a small MVP, and I think it's really solid. Yeah,
Yeah, I went to boot camp myself probably about almost like a decade ago now,
nice.
and
Which one?
I think that sorry,
Which one did you go to?
I went to App Academy.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I think the important thing here to know too is that if you're starting from scratch, you don't know how to code at all. I think depend. Obviously, there's industries and businesses that you could start that definitely require a much higher aptitude in terms of like your technical proficiency or how strong you are of a developer or programmer. But for most businesses, if you're solving a business need and like your main clients aren't like other businesses that are very tech focused, you don't actually need to know that much code. You don't have to be that sophisticated, I think.
yeah,
So I think it might seem like, oh, go to boot camp for like a few months and all of a sudden you launch your own business, like launch your own startup. Like, how's that possible? But I think, depending on the scale of business that you're looking to launch, it's the sophistication.
yeah,
I think that a lot of businesses, a lot of problems that you want to solve can be solved by just learning how to code over a few months,
yeah,
and boot camp included.
yeah. And to add to that, I had so let's see. So we were, I think, 30 people in that boot camp for that specific time. And I think maybe a third of those people ended up getting junior dev roles. And then like another third probably didn't do anything related to coding again. That's just how it happens. Some people go back to their old jobs, but now they're a bit more technical as like, I don't know, product managers or whatever. And then there's quite a few people that have started their own business strictly from that. And maybe they don't go on to becoming CTOs of the company. That's fine. But at least you have enough knowledge to start it. You have enough knowledge to launch the MVP. You have enough knowledge to kind of get things moving. And then if you feel like you're out of your depths with the code, maybe you're building something super complex, then you can go and hire someone. But then you also understand who you're hiring and what you're hiring them for and what type of work they're going to do, and they're not going to scam you, right? I don't know. So I think it's a pretty good opportunity, yeah, to do a bootcamp if you can.
Yeah, I think even if you know enough just to build a proof of concept,
Yeah,
it just goes way further than trying to explain to like a developer on what you want to build. If you already have something that works and you just need them to work off of that, it's almost like you give like an artist like a sketch versus trying to describe what you want them to build. It's like
exactly. Yeah,
much harder.
yeah, it's a great way of putting it.
Yeah. So one cool thing that you used to did too was that, one thing I've heard from other guests on the show is that they often will end up trying different things because they're trying to focus on opportunism, where they're looking for opportunities to build a business and make money.
Hmm.
And then they always kind of fall back to just scratching their own itch and solving a particular problem that they have discovered on their own because of their own work or that in their own industry. And that one always is the one that tends to like take off for them,
Hmm.
which sounds like the same scenario you came up with, you found yourself in, where you're wondering like, why are the tools that you need so expensive? Like you couldn't, this just didn't, the world didn't make sense. Like, why isn't there an existing thing that
Absolutely.
already exists? And then you went off and built it. How much do you attribute that to just being like luck, like that just happened that you found something that worked for you, versus like, yeah, you do recommend people just try to focus on solving their own problems first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a mix of both, right? It's probably like right place, right time, where I have a YouTube channel where these tools are increasing all their prices and people complain about it, and it's in my comments and I see it all day. So that's definitely a luck thing. But I definitely think that people can create things just from like seeing what they do in a day to day, like what's inefficient, what don't you like about it, what could you improve, or what do you see could be made better. And there's definitely a lot of business opportunities there. For this example, it was perfect because I was also a paying customer of these massive tools, spending $150 a month, and I wish there was something cheaper, right, that matched that quality. And so I set out to build that. But yeah, if people just kind of analyze all the different products that they're using and what's inefficient about them, or maybe there's like a niche, you could turn it into like specifically for your niche, right? Yeah, there's a lot of
Yeah.
different things there. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the big almost like mental leap that you have to take, that something that I struggled with for a long time, is that you have this, everyone I think has this intuition or this feeling, this gut feeling where it's like the world doesn't work the way I expect it to work. Like in your example, why isn't there something in the SEO world that's just cheaper, that works for developers and small businesses, like a tool that is just much more affordable? And they kind of just stop there, where they're just kind of like, I guess it's just that way, and kind of move on, but they
Yeah,
don't
absolutely.
realize that there's that at that moment is their chance to say, okay, maybe I'm the one that can. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
like world changing, right? It doesn't mean world changing
Yeah.
software,
No.
but is that leap, I think, that a lot of people kind of, they don't recognize it as an opportunity. And like there's so
Yeah.
many of those like throughout your day, like your
Absolutely. Yeah,
day to
absolutely. And
day
so
life.
yeah, and so one of the things that I kind of said to myself was like, listen, this is strange that these tools don't really exist that well. There's a couple of people that were doing it, but like nothing incredible that you could talk about. And so it was a hypothesis for me. I was like, hey, I'm happy to be proven wrong. I'm going to work on this for a bit. I have a bit of money. I have money saved up. Now I want to work on this. I'm happy to be proven wrong. And I've yet to be proven wrong. So we're just going to keep going until we're proven wrong. That's it.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay, so let's talk about the actual build out. So you mentioned
Yep.
initially that you give it like 7, 8, 9 months to work on this thing. Like from the start of the idea to actually having something that you were comfortable enough to ship to
Yeah.
actual users and try to sell. How long did that take?
Yeah. So I started literally first line of code probably was like July 1st of 2023. And then I launched the MVP, the beta, December 23rd. So I don't know, what's that, 7 months?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think a little bit faster than that. And
Yeah.
during that time, was it just your full time focus, or were you doing other stuff at
Yeah.
this time?
So I had, until that point, I was focused on clients. And then I just said, you know what? I'm done with clients. I'd rather make less money and own more of my time building something that I like than working for other people and having to grow their businesses. And so I just said no to everything, which was pretty frustrating, but said no to everything for 6 months and just focused on building this, just focused on learning to code and getting better. And yeah, December 23rd launched the MVP and it went pretty well.
Yeah, I think there's definitely something there about just like having almost like a time box amount of just like, I'm going to
Yeah.
give it the next 6 months and just focus completely on it. Did you do that, or you were just like, I'm going to just do this? If it doesn't work, then I'm not going to think about it. I'm just keep on chugging along at this, or do you give yourself a kind of like a deadline to try to get this to work?
Yeah, so one of the things that kind of helped me keep going was that through my YouTube channel, I started talking about it. I just started mentioning the fact that, hey, I'm building this affordable SEO tool. There's a wait list if you guys are interested. And that wait list would kind of help me gauge how much interest there was, how much demand there was for it. And so the more I talked about it, the more people were on the wait list. And so that would kind of pump me up quite a bit. And so probably towards the end, the first month, I'd say there were like 300 to 400 people on the wait list. And so that already was a pretty good indication of like, okay, I have to finish this, right? Because there's also the whole thing of like, okay, you want to start something, you're super excited about it, you want to learn how to code. And then when you're in the trenches and you're struggling and you don't know what a controller is, I guess that's like Rails talk or whatever, and you're stuck with the code, it's brutal, right? But you have to finish. You have to at least bring it to that MVP, just something super simple where people can give you feedback. They can tell you if they like it. You can see if they're willing to pay for it. And I just wanted to take it to that point. Once I got to that point, then I decide what to do next. But yeah, I was lucky enough that I had a bit of feedback the whole way, and I had people telling me like, "Hey, we're excited about this. When are you going to launch it? When's it coming out?" So yeah, so that really helped me. Yeah.
Yeah, so let's talk about the launch. So your YouTube now has almost like 19,000 subscribers. I'm not sure what the numbers look like back in 2023, or I guess about a year ago
Hmm.
when you were starting gearing up for this launch. But you mentioned to us that this is probably the most impactful funnel for you to get clients in, particularly for Clicks.so. Could you walk us through what your content strategy was here? How did you balance between just creating content just for content's sake to build trust versus like directly promoting Clicks.so? Did you ever do that? Like directly promote, or like how do you
Yeah.
balance it?
So the day of, let me think here. No, the beta launch, the initial launch, I didn't actually make any content for it. So I'd been hyping it up for I don't know how many months, and then eventually I just sent an email to like I think there was 1,000 plus people on the beta, and I decided that I would have a limited beta of 50 people paying a reduced price. I think it was like 16 $17 a month, and I wanted to see if it would sell out, right? Because there's 1,000 people. Are there 50 people in there that are willing to pay this price? And so it did. It sold out within like the first 26 or 27 hours, which is great. And so then from that, I basically worked on it for a few months. The churn was absolutely horrible because the app was trash and it was really slow and it was buggy and all that. But it helped me improve. And then I did the real launch March 13th. And so for that, I did like a really proper thought out content strategy. So it was I launched like a full on video to my YouTube channel, which is actually the pinned video still on my channel. So if you go to my channel, you'll see it. I posted on Twitter, posted on LinkedIn, posted on, I think that's probably it, but shared everything everywhere. And yeah, that launch wasn't as big as the initial beta launch, just because there was so much hype behind it, or not hype, I guess, but just people were excited about it. But yeah, but it still continued the growth. And so yeah, I do think that YouTube has been the most impactful thing that I've done for this business, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I think having this waiting list is certainly a common strategy that I've heard before. When if someone out there, maybe they have some kind of following somewhere on social media, or maybe they're just just starting out, but they also want to take this approach of building a waiting list. Did you remember what kind of stuff worked to get people even interested in signing up for a waiting list to be notified when it launches? Like, do you have anything particularly methodical about your approach, or just kind of talked about it
Yeah.
more kind of randomly?
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty savage. Like there was no there's no real method behind it. I would just talk about it. I had a really simple landing page that said there was a big H1 with whatever my thing was at the time. Like, you should stop overpaying for SEO data, and so people would get really excited about that. Like, I am paying too much for SEO data, and so they'd add in their email. And again, it's free, right, for you to add your email. And so people are pretty down to do that. They're probably not as down to end up paying for the tool. But yeah, just talk about it. Just keep talking about it in whatever creative way you can, so that the audience doesn't get tired of it. Because of course there's definitely audience saturation when you talk about things too much. But yeah, I would just maybe just drop it once or twice a video for however long it was, maybe 4 or 5 months. And yeah, that definitely racked up the emails.
Yeah, so you mentioned there's two launches, a beta launch, and a few months later, I guess the real launch. Why this kind of staggered approach? Like, why not just like one big launch, like no beta launch at all? Like, what does the beta give you
Yeah.
for like a SaaS business?
Yeah, it's a great question. More than anything, can I swear on this? No.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. More than anything, I was shitting myself because it was my first app. Again, it had been mostly me and this developer that I'd call maybe like once or twice a month or so. So I had no idea what was going to happen in terms of like the server. I don't know what was going to happen with Heroku, if people were going to have like login troubles. I don't know. There were so many unknowns that I didn't want to just open up to everyone and have people bashing me on Twitter, people commenting on my YouTube saying this is terrible, this doesn't work. And so I would rather have it limited to just 50 people, kind of just like a little test, like see what happens inside and get as much feedback and then properly launch it. And also there was a kind of a side thing of when it's closed like that and when it's a limited amount of people that can get in, it also continues to add hype, right? It's like, oh, I missed out on whatever that beta was, or it's sold out or whatever. When it's sold out, people also get pretty pumped up about that. So yeah, but more than anything, it was because I was shitting myself and I didn't know what was going to happen. So I was super nervous. And yeah, I'm really happy I did it, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's definitely something to be said about having kind of a controlled rollout, just so that you can. I think the initial launch sounded like more so just kind of get the feedback so that you can fix things and have a proper launch. And speaking of like fixing things, you mentioned that the first launch had high churn, and I think a lot of people, first of all, would be like, "This sucks. I'm going to just give up on this entire thing."
Absolutely.
So, first, kudos to you for continuing, and we'll talk about what made you keep going from there. But then there's also, like, you mentioned to us that when it came to customer support, there's like this pressure that you probably felt to respond immediately to anything that people write in about, and if there's a lot of bugs or people would rather churn off, it's even more stress. Or people writing in about certain features that they want and how to prioritize all of that. So maybe to kind of summarize my question of like, when you first launched and started getting feedback in terms of people writing in about it, or people just like, no longer signing up, they're churning off of it. How do you process that feedback in like in a healthy way so that you can continue to grow the business without like kind of going crazy about it?
Yeah. That's a good question because I'm still dealing with that today. But because it's unfortunate, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like your baby, so you take it personally when someone doesn't like it or they tell you it's terrible or it doesn't work or whatever it is. Not that too many people have said that, but it will happen, right? And I think it's a good thing as well. I think the main thing is you got to keep going, right? Had absolutely everybody churned off the first day and everyone told me that was terrible, then yes, that would have been a really clear sign that things were terrible and things just, I probably should just move on to something else. But there were people that churned, and then there was a subset of people. I think probably half of those people stayed on, and there's still people today that are still paying on that beta plan, right? And so those people gave me positive feedback. They said they liked it. They said they were waiting for this next feature to launch or whatever it was. But there was something positive, and so I just tried to focus on the positive, forget about the negative. And again, there's always going to be people that, for whatever reason, they don't agree with what you built, or they were expecting something else, or it's just not the right fit, and that's okay, right? And so people are totally allowed to come in, they try it, if they want a refund, give them a refund, and if they don't like it, they don't like it. That's totally cool. So yeah, I guess don't take it personally is the conclusion. Yeah.
Definitely. I think, especially if you spend like 6, 7 months working on something, you'd have to have some kind of conviction that this is going to work. And if they don't share this, if the world doesn't share the same enthusiasm as you, it's definitely kind of a return to earth, like sobering moment. So
Absolutely.
I think, yeah, you have to kind of be prepared for that. And I mean, obviously have high expectations and have big goals, but don't, I guess, kind of be realistic about what the outcome can be once you start getting the feedback.
Yeah.
So, obviously, since we have someone that like you that has like experience here, and besides obviously signing up for Clicks.so, what do you think are the biggest opportunities for other SaaS founders to improve their SEO? Are there certain things that you just see are glaring mistakes or glaring opportunities that
Yeah.
someone that might not know much SEO can make a big
Yeah,
impact right away?
for sure. I didn't expect an SEO question. It's sick. Yeah, there's a lot of things. I mean, I think the first thing is just understanding a little bit what SEO is. I think there's a lot of content on YouTube. I'm not even going to say my channel, but there's plenty of channels on YouTube that talk about just what SEO is, because it really isn't that complex, right? It's just understanding a little bit how to structure a page, the type of content you need to create, and how to structure a website. And that's basically it, right? Sharing the right content. Be careful with AI tools. A lot of tools are coming out to kind of improve the efficiency of creating content. Those tools don't always provide the highest quality content. Yes, you may rank, but will someone end up reading that? Probably not, right? If you don't want to read your content, why would someone else read that content? So just be mindful of what you're creating. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great SEO tools out there. Ahrefs, SEMrush, Clicks.so if you want an affordable one.
Yeah, I think that's like almost like the situation for a lot of things that are kind of technical. SEO I would consider a technical thing as well, where it just seems so daunting that you didn't even bother like scratching like the surface
Yeah,
of it
but
all.
it really is it's so basic when you compare it to programming, for example. Like
Mm,
it's just creating content, right? At the like the basics of it.
yeah, definitely. So I'll leave this last question. So you're at 4,000 monthly recurring revenue. You mentioned to us that your immediate goal is to hit $10,000 a month of monthly recurring revenue. What specific aspects of the business do you feel like you need to change or focus on or evolve to kind of make that jump to $10,000 a month?
Yeah, so I think the biggest jump was fixing the retention, fixing the churn, right? There's pretty intense churn early on. And so one of the things that I did was adding in a lot more email touch points. Like when people signed up earlier on, there was no emails, there was no, hey, thanks for signing up. Hey, thanks for you've been on the platform for a week, or have you checked out this new tool, whatever. So added all that in. That helped the churn a lot, improved obviously the speed of the product, the quality of a lot of the things that I was showing. And so now the next stage is just growth, right? The only kind of real growth things that I've been doing so far is just talking about on the channel, which is great. It's got me to 4K MRR. But now I'm actually going to start doing SEO to it, which is kind of funny because it's an SEO tool. It should have good SEO. So that's what I'm focused on next. And I'm trying cold emails as well. Cold email is absolutely brutal. I'm talking about on my YouTube channel as well, if you guys are interested in that. But yeah, man, just growth, and I believe SEO is going to be the big channel.
Yeah, we'll definitely link to your channel in this description of this video. And I think it sounds like the kind of the big reveal here is that once you've technically built the company, like marketing and sales is like another skill, and obviously SEO in this case is in there, a skill that you need to focus on. It sounds like that's like your main area of focus to kind of get it to the next level. So definitely another avenue to explore beyond just like the technical
Absolutely,
requirements to
yeah,
build your
absolutely.
startup. Yeah, so thank you so much for your time. Thanks so much for coming on and sharing your journey, your advice, and experience with us.
Thanks, I appreciate it.